it's very difficult to make an impact on aging. There are so many forces like pushing you to aging. So kind of, to reverse the clock is definitely a change. But we knew that we would only bring something to the market if it was something really meaningful that would really make a difference. And first and foremost, that would not cause any harm to the skin.
Today's guest is Carolina Oliveira, CEO and co-founder of OneSkin. She holds a PhD in stem cell biology and tissue engineering, is a co-inventor of 5 patents, and co-author of numerous scientific publications. She relocated from Brazil to Silicon Valley in 2016 to found OneSkin, a fast-growing longevity company developing products to promote skin age reversal by targeting a central driver of aging, the accumulation of senescent cells. Carolina and her team are disrupting the outdated anti-aging skincare industry with their groundbreaking research around skin and longevity. This was a fascinating and fast conversation. You guys are going to love this. Can't wait for you to learn all about the future of skin health. Carolina, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I've become a huge fan of OneSkin, and I love something with a research background. And I want to get to know you and the brand a little bit better. I want to share it with my community. And so thanks for being here to share all about OneSkin and your journey as a doctor in stem cell biology. Woo, that's a mouthful. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kelly. Super excited for this conversation.
Me too. So can you talk a little bit about your background? Like, what is a stem cell biologist?
Yeah. So how I got into stem cell biology, I was always drawn into the science. I love the potential that science had to really explain how things work from a biological standpoint. And when you start really going down to the molecular level and you see, wow, how a DNA is organized and the way that the DNA leads to a protein that leads to, how our tissues function. And then you start understanding, okay, when things is starting work well, then we get to this dysfunctional state, and then we get to diseases, how we can fix that. So I was always very fascinated about science in general, but I always wanted to work with science that I could see a clear translation. I want to make sure that the science that I was studying or developing would make an impact at some point. And stem cells always was a field that had a lot of potential because we still don't know, the amount of things that we can do with stem cells is still in the early days, but we know that a stem cell can become any type of cells from our body. And knowing that, we can basically grow, human tissues in a lab. We can think of like cell therapy. So if you have like a cancer, like a lymphoma, and you need like some transplantation, you can use stem cells to, create those cells and treat patients, and even people, with that suffer from accidents and, can be paraplegic. So there are so many applications, and I was really drawn to that field. And I studied that during my PhD, and was a different area than what we were doing today. But from that, I started my first venture, as an entrepreneur. So back in Brazil, I'm from Brazil, grew up there. And we started this other company that we were growing like human tissues in the lab to replace animal testing. So it was something that was really meaningful from an ethical standpoint, but also from a drug development standpoint, in which using human tissues is a much more reliable model than testing animals. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that first idea or endeavor didn't work out for many reasons. So, but I could, it gave me this opportunity to come to the US and start over. And here in the US was very interesting because I came with this dream of really, I needed to, create something out of this science that we've been developed, but I didn't know exactly what it would be. So one of the ideas that we had here when we arrived here was basically to grow human skins again to test if anti-aging products work, how we can validate if this amount of products that are in the market, if they are actually delivering the results that we all expect, right? So everyone makes like huge claims, but very few brands can deliver. And in order to understand if anti-aging products work, I needed to understand about aging in the first place. So that's when I, really started diving into aging biology, more focus on skin aging, but aging as a whole. And that's when I really got, you know, fascinated about this new science that we are now understand what really is making us aging and how we could come up with like new interventions that could actually slow down or reverse that process. And what is interesting is that we know, from a biological standpoint, again, that aging is a very malleable process, it's reversible. In the lab, we can make a skin cell go from like a 30 years old to a neonatal stage. Basically, bring this cell all the way back to a very early stage. So we know that we can manipulate aging, and then we saw, okay, there is all these companies developing anti-aging products, but they are not harnessing this latest, science that can actually reverse aging. So we decided not to test any anti-aging product anymore. We decided to develop our own products. And that's how I landed in what we are doing at OneSkin. And what I love about what we're doing at OneSkin is that it's targeting aging at the root cause. And obviously, we're focused on skin aging, but this can be applicable to other tissues as well. Because the root cause that's driving aging in the skin is very similar to what is driving aging, in other tissues and organs in our bodies. So in the end, I feel that we are contributing to find the new ways that will slow down the aging process. And we are starting with the skin. We want to be the leading company that delivers like the most effective product to reverse the age of the skin. But eventually, we want to go broader and we want to target like aging as a whole. So this makes me really excited about this field. And as a scientist, and I see that there is so much impact that we can create with this science and all the products that we are bringing to our customers as well.
Well, we could go so many directions from what you just said, but I want to take it back to what causes aging. I want you to explain what are the major causes of aging on the skin, and how is that, and other tissues of the body, so that we have a general understanding of like, well, what's causing us to age? If it is so malleable and you can take these skin cells back to neonate cells, why are we aging?
Yeah. So aging basically is the accumulation of damage over time. So our cells, we have like DNA repair enzymes that are able to repair damage as we accumulate the damage. When we are young, we are very efficient with this process. So we can create damage and we can repair them. So we basically are not aging too much. But when we get older, this system starts to get deficient. So our DNA is basically, or our DNA repair system is basically gets overwhelmed because there is so much going on. So there is an accumulation of damage, obviously, from what we eat, from UV exposure, different environmental stressors. That's leading our cells to not be able to repair that amount of damage. So we start like basically to accumulate mutations in our DNA. And eventually a cell gets so many mutations that enters in this state that that cell shouldn't divide anymore, because if it continues dividing, it could become a cancer. So that cell basically pulls a trigger and stop dividing and enters in this state called senescence, or we also call them like zombie cells. So zombie cells are cells that are so damaged that they can't function anymore. They don't replicate, and they should die. But for some reason, they can escape this process of apoptosis, that what we call when a cell dies, and they start to build up in our tissues. And the main problem of those zombie cells is not that they are there, it's what they start producing. They start producing inflammatory signals that basically induces the healthy cells around it to age faster. So we like to compare like the zombie cells with a bad apple in a basket, because this bad apple can spoil the good apples, and this accelerates the aging. So that's basically what's happening in our tissues. And what's leading to them, there, as I said, there are several environmental stresses, but it can be our diet, it can be lack of sleep. Basically, our bodies are not able to function in a homeostasis state, and then we start to accumulate those damage, then those cells enter in that state. Again, when we are young, our immune system can recognize those cells and clear them out of the way. But again, our immune system starts to get deficient as we grow older. So we need to find a new way to actually remove those cells from our tissues. We can either use ways that we can um, improve the efficiency of repairing damage, or we can clear those cells out of the way. So there are ways that we can develop like molecules or other interventions that can selectively target those zombie cells. And if we remove them, then we allow the healthy cells to proliferate normally so they can function as they should. For example, in the skin, they should function like producing collagen and really making like a stronger skin barrier so our skin continues to function well. While if we have those zombie cells, basically the inflammation that they are secreting will impair collagen production, will basically compromise our skin barrier. Our cells are not able to replicate as they should. So this will start leading to the signs of aging, such as sagging, wrinkles, and obviously even skin cancer if we get a lot of damage in our skin. So I know that we hear about a lot of different causes of aging. And obviously, yes, there is like a dysregulation in nutrient sensing, or, in the how our mitochondria works. But what it's interesting that all these different types of damage, they will end up to the formation of those zombie cells. So it's basically like a central hub of all the damages that if you're accumulating damage, your cells will stop function and they get into that state. And that's what we believe that's the best target to focus. Because if all of what we are doing eventually will lead to senescent cells, let's find a way to remove those senescent cells so our tissues can go back to that, healthy, functional state. So that's what we've been focusing in the past almost 8 years that we've been researching at OneSkin, in finding new molecules, more specifically peptides, that are specifically targeting senescent cells and decreasing the amount of senescent cells in our skin so we can keep our skin functioning like younger skin.
It's phenomenal. And you make such a good point, because when you think about the oxidative stress that causes aging, you're talking about what we're eating, our environment, like environmental toxins, whether that's like smog, radiation, the sun. Like, I always tell my clients, like, if you're living, you're experiencing oxidative stress.
Yeah.
Yes, you can absolutely target it by pulling out like inflammatory omega-6 oils from your diet, choosing to incorporate, fiber and leafy greens and healthy fats. But in reality, it's like, I have 3 young kids and they have baseball, they have soccer. We want to be at the beach. My husband's a big surfer. We want to travel. Like, I love being in the sun. I consider myself like a lizard. If I could be at the beach or in the desert, I'm my happiest self, that's not something I'm going to be able to totally protect against all the time. I'm obviously going to be trying to wear some type of physical block sunscreen. But the idea that you could live your life, try your best to decrease oxidative stress, and then pull out the bad apples that are causing so much inflammation. So these zombie cells and senescent cells, are they giving off cytokines? Is it like inflammatory chemicals that are basically like breaking down the cells around them?
Yeah, exactly. So the zombie cells, they start producing what we call SASPs, like a senescence-associated secretory phenotype. So basically, it's a pool of cytokines, inflammatory cytokines. Some of them are IL-6, IL-8, IL-1, and also metalloproteinases that basically are proteins that degrade collagen or extracellular matrix. So they are basically secreting inflammation and activating those proteins that will degrade collagen. And what we see that we can go, more deeply on how our peptide works, but basically our peptide is able to decrease that amount of factors that senescent cells are secreting. So we have less inflammation, and when you have less inflammation, you basically allows your skin to go back to that homeostasis state. And I love what you said about antioxidants and oxidative stress, because I think antioxidants, it's a good way to prevent or to try to neutralize as much as possible oxidative stress, right? So because when you have more oxidative stress, you are going to get DNA damage, and then you are going to get senescent cells. So if you can neutralize, you're already decreasing one of the factors that's going to lead to senescent cells. But obviously there are many other, factors that will lead to senescent cells. So eventually still need to remove them or clear them out. But it's one of the important pillars that we even use at our products that can prevent, the aging process and the formation of those zombie cells.
It's so interesting because, and we'll get to your peptide, because clearly, obviously we'd want to, if we could, go out and cherry pick or apple pick that zombie cell completely out of our body. But the reality is like the damage has been done. It is a zombie cell. You're old. No, I mean, I'm old. Like, like if you're trying to get rid of it, it's like, I think to myself, okay, my immune system is deficient. It's clearly not seeing this as a problem. I'm seeing like what my mom would call like olive spots or, like pigmentation and, I'm Yugoslavian or Croatian, that's my heritage. So it's like, or my background. So I'm all about that sun. I suck it in and there's spots all over me. It's just kind of what happens, but I don't want that damage to continue. I don't want that inflammation to continue. If you could go out and cherry pick them out, it'd be awesome, but you can't. So peptides can support the decrease of these inflammatory chemicals, these cytokines.
Yes.
I'll just say, frankly, like the reason why I was so interested in OneSkin, the company you've developed with 4 female PhDs, by the way, shout out to these power women, is that in my previous life, not necessarily my previous life, but earlier on when I was in my early 20s, I was really interested in skin. I was really interested in peptides, but I was using commercial products that were available that did have endocrine disrupting chemicals, that had lots of preservatives, water content. They worked. I felt like, wow, my skin had a major rebound prior to my wedding. I was using what was considered Kate Somerville's like 50 plus anti-aging peptide. I loved it. I loved it. At one point when they like discontinued it, I think I bought like 2 or 3 of the containers and saved them up to their expiration date. Like I just saw a massive difference in my skin. And then when that went away, I cleared out all my skincare and said, I'm just going to do natural skincare, some vitamin C, some Bakuli or however you...
Bakuchiol.
Yeah, Bakuchiol oil, like trying to find ways to do it, but never saw that, I don't want to call it like chemical grade or, professional grade rebound in my skin. And I just, with pregnancies and breastfeeding and nutrient depletion, I felt like, okay, I love the oils and I love the clean skincare, but 40 now and I need a zhuzh. So
yeah, and it's some extra help, right?
I need the extra help. I do. And I will say, the reason why you're on this podcast is because I've used your product for over a year, and love what it's done to my skin and haven't really used anything else, like, and not in combination, kind of just, I'm a minimalist. You have a simple little program. It was like, I use the face wash, I use the lotion, I use the eye cream. I know you just came out with a sunscreen and it's great. I've used it on myself and my kids. It's interesting because what I would see from back in the day when I'd go to dermatologists, whether I was using retinol or like, or at one point they was giving me in my early 20s, like a bleaching cream or something to get rid of some of the
Yeah.
spots on my face. I've seen all of those things improve using your product. So I want you to break down the science of it, and how you identified this peptide, what exactly is the mechanism of action, and yeah, like what's going on in the lab. Tell me everything.
Yeah. So basically, when we decided to go after this peptide, what we realized that we were going against is mainly like retinols and acids that function by peeling off the upper layers of your skin, right? When you use an acid, you are inducing this cell renew that will allow your skin to strip out the upper layers, and then you are going to grow after a fresher skin that's going to look like fresher, newer, but you're not necessarily targeting what's driving aging underneath.
Mhm.
And the main problem with some of those retinols or acids is that they can cause a lot of inflammation during this process, irritation as well. And if you're overusing, if you're always like stripping out your layers, you are basically making your skin more vulnerable, more susceptible, because you are removing your skin barrier temporarily. So, and I was using retinol for many years, first, to treat acne, and then because of its anti-aging properties, until we start testing retinol in the lab and we start seeing like how much inflammation it creates, and even some genes associated with aging they go up really high with retinol. And then I was like, wow, this is supposed to be anti-aging, and then it's driving aging to the roof. And then and this probably it's because of the acute phase of retinol can actually cause this inflammation and redness. Some people will go over this phase, and some people can never adapt. So basically, what we saw, okay, there should be a better way that we should promote this rejuvenation without the side effects. And the best way is really, working from the inside out, like really going inside or like the deeper layers of the skin and targeting what's driving aging from there. And then your skin will basically work itself up to regenerate itself. So for example, when we know that those senescent cells are in the dermal layer, that's the layer that produces collagen, that gives like the firmness of the skin. If we're able to go there with this peptide and induce like DNA repair pathways that will lead to uh, less formation of senescent cells and consequently less inflammation, we are basically decreasing the overall burden of senescent cells. And then you have in the end more healthy and younger cells than before the treatment. And with that, you have less inflammation and your collagen production goes up again. And basically, you are working again from the inside out. So the end result, when you target like those senescent cells, and basically when you activate your cell's ability to repair damage, is that your skin will function like a younger skin. So without having the side effects, without having to strip out the skin barrier. So that's a more efficient way when you understand, the right target and how to be really specific about it. So this peptide, we spent almost like 4 years testing several types of molecules, and we tested nearly 1,000 different peptides before we get to OS1. So it's not something that we found like overnight, because we know that it's very difficult to make an impact on aging. There are so many forces like pushing you to aging. So kind of, to reverse the clock is definitely a change. But we knew that we would only bring something to the market if it was something really meaningful that would really make a difference. And first and foremost, that would not cause any harm to the skin, that would not compromise our skin barrier and our skin health. So we are all about skin health first, and then and the safety of our skin, and then obviously we want to add, that efficacy on top of that. So as you said, there are a lot of products in the market that they may have a lot of good actives, but they are full of other ingredients that are not clean, that are toxic. So they can make your skin to look, good like temporarily, but later down the road that can actually compromise your skin. And we have seen this over and over in the lab, and very top, luxurious products that are rich in actives, but they have like toxic ingredients. When we apply them to the skin in the lab really degenerates, and we see a lot of inflammation. And that's because they are not delivering like good ingredients in the first place. They have the good, but they have the bad. So in the end, like, you are affecting the overall function of your skin. So that's one of the main things. Like, first, you needed to start with a clean and safe product, and then you needed to add a very efficacious ingredient that's going to work to target aging. And that's how we designed this product, really to be gentle and then to be specific in how it works to reverse this aging process.
Well, I want to unwrap that reversal of aging process. And I want you to kind of talk me through what it looks like to be in your lab. Because I think one of the interesting things for me when I was considering trying your product was looking at the research, looking at, I mean, I don't know the proper term, like the dermal layers, is that, if that's even appropriate, seeing the different pictures of the skin, and then also seeing the differences in, you kind of just alluded to it, in gene response. And
Mhm.
so can we talk a little bit about what you're testing when you are, and what you're looking at when you're evaluating these 1,000 peptides to identify your active ingredient, and what you're looking at to also look at those other active ingredients, whether it be like an acid, like a glycolic acid or a retinol?
Yeah, love that because I love to explain
Oh, I mean,
how things work
it's
in the lab.
it's the science that gets me every time. You will come to learn that. So,
I love it. My favorite kind of host. So first, the first thing that we did in order to test any product was we needed to replicate the skin aging in the lab.
Mhm.
So for that, we use the cells from skin from different types of donors, like really young donors, like neonatal type of skin, adult skin like 30 years old, and then 60, 70 years old skin. So basically, we can replicate the skin tissue with the main two layers, as you said, the dermal layer and the epidermal layer. That's the top layer that forms like the skin barrier. And then we can really see the difference of a neonatal skin to a adult skin to a older skin. So the skin really start to get thinner. And then when we look at the gene expression, like which genes are active, we see that genes that are associated with aging and inflammation, they go down in the older skin. And genes associated with aging, they go up, and the collagen and hyaluronic acid go down. So we know that better. And we also see that the old skins have more senescent cells. Now that we have this model and we really understand, okay, what is the type of skin that we want to get? We want to get this younger skin that have a thicker, epidermal layer that have more collagen. Then we start treating products on the top of the skin, topically. So we can treat any product that's in the market, and we can also use just ingredients, specific ingredients, as you said, a peptide or retinol or glycolic acid, and we can see the impact of that ingredient or a given product in the skin. And we see in a morphological way, so the skin that is the ingredient that's doing well will make the skin look like thicker and healthier. And the products that are not doing well to the skin, we can clearly see the skin like the morphology changing and the cells start to die. And from a gene level, the same. We can see inflammation going up or inflammation going down. So we know exactly what is going on. And when we test our peptide, basically we tested in cells that were already very aged, like they had a lot of senescent cells. And we could count the amount of senescent cells and find the peptide that had like the greatest ability to reduce the number of those zombie cells. So we tested, as I said, for a few years until we got to OS1 that could reduce up to 50% the amount of zombie cells in the skin. And when we treat aged skins with OS1, what we saw is exactly what we wanted to see, like the skin getting thicker. We have more collagen genes, more hyaluronic acid genes, and the genes associated with aging going down. So there are like several ways that we make sure that the peptide is doing well for the skin, both from a structural standpoint, but also from a molecular standpoint. And the last piece that we measure, which is my favorite because it's quantifiable, is the biological age of the skin. You are familiar with the concept of biological age, right? So we can determine the biological age of the skin basically by measuring like the epigenetic profile, more specific, like the methylation patterns. So we know that a given skin is like 60 years old, and then we treat it for peptide, and we can quantify how many years that peptide is reversing or is like reducing the biological age of the skin. And we found that our peptide in the lab, in the skin that we were treating, could reduce 2.6 years the age of the skin over a course of 5 days, which is really impressive because obviously it's in a, it's in the lab control environment, but it shows that we can actually reverse aging and we can quantify that. So we did that, and then now we developed our own product, we are doing this in humans. So we are running a clinical study in which we follow the participants for 6 months up to 12 months, and we collect biopsies and we measure through the DNA level how much we're reducing the age of the skin. And for me, that's like the best way to validate that we are actually reversing the age of the skin because it's quantitative, it's accurate. It's not like, oh, I feel that I have, less fine lines or my skin is plumper, which is important too. But I think when you go down to the biological level, then you can get really specific with what's going on. And that's the best proof that your skin is functioning like a younger skin.
It's so impressive because, like we talked about earlier, there can be active ingredients that say plump the skin or in the short term make it look a specific way. But if underneath it's doing a bunch of damage and actually contributing
Yeah.
to senescent cells and ultimately going to lead to way more damage, then it's really not helpful. And that would show in your research. You'd be able
Yeah.
to see that. You'd be able to see that the biological age of the skin was actually not improving, but in fact, that it was aging. So that's super cool.
Yeah, and I feel that we are obviously privileged because we can see clearly in the lab while the consumer can only see so much, right? What the consumer can do today, they can try to see the list of ingredients, how clean, how they rank in terms of the score. They can try to see if there is any scientific research behind the product. But a lot of times it's really hard for them to really understand. A lot of companies will have peptides, but how that peptide work, how they really function, if they how they know that's actually reversing aging. So I think for us, like we want to be that source of like uh credibility and trust because we can see what most consumers cannot see, and we want to make sure that we are bringing a product that the consumers can trust and can see results. It's super interesting and very exciting to see what we can actually do when you really use the science and how it translates into human results in the end, right? Because that's the ultimate goal.
Right. Well, it's interesting to me that you tried 1,000 peptides and finally ended up at OS1. And so I'm curious, like, one, let's bring our audience up to speed. What is a peptide? Why has it been something that's been researched for skincare and anti-aging? And then what clearly you went down a path to find your peptide and you kept going. So what maybe are some of the other peptides out in the market missing and what are they targeting versus what you're targeting? Can we go through that
Yeah,
part? Because I
yeah,
think that's also really important.
definitely. So a peptide is basically a chain of amino acids. They are the building blocks of a protein. So if you think of collagen, one of the main proteins that are in our skin, they are formed by a lot of peptides. But there are different types of peptides. As the sequence of amino acid varies and the length of the peptide varies, these are different molecules, different peptides, and they can have different functions. They can function as a messenger. So basically, they can enter in our cells and they activate or they induce our cells to behave in a certain way. So some peptides can be good, some peptides can be toxic. So it's really important to find the peptides that are sending the right message to our cells. Uh, as we explained before, our peptide enters in the skin cells and really activates DNA repair pathways that leads to, in the end, to lower amount of senescent cells, less inflammation, and more collagen, and so on. Other peptides in the market, they may be entering the skin and try to activate collagen. And just to activate collagen is already good. But if you are not targeting what's in the end leading to collagen degradation, you can be producing more collagen, but you are still degrading collagen at the same level. So you're not being able to reverse that process. And unfortunately, another challenge of many peptides in the market is that it's depending on the size or the charge of the peptide, it's hard for them to penetrate into the skin. So you can load your skincare with peptides, but if they don't get to the dermal layer, the deeper layers of the skin, they won't work. They'll just sit down, on top of your skin. And for us at OneSkin was one of the main questions that we made, like, is this peptide getting to the dermal layer? And we do test that. Basically, we apply the product topically and we let the product sit for 24 hours. And the next day, we separate the dermal layer from the epidermal layer. And then we analyze only in the dermal layer the amount of peptide that it gets through the skin. So to be able to make sure, okay, what's the amount that gets there? What's the amount that we need to make this product efficient? So we know there is a concentration. So we can basically know what's the concentration that we needed to have on the product that will make sure that we deliver sufficient amount of peptide to combat those senescent cells. So there are many boxes that you need to check to make sure that a peptide is, it's working well and it's getting to the dermal layer and is activating the right pathways. So that's what I'm saying. Like there's other products in the market. For example, copper peptide is one that's very famous, and it's supposed to activate collagen. It's supposed to induce like cell renewal. In our hands, it didn't work as well. But there are other studies showing that it can activate collagen. So I think if they are not causing any toxicity, it's already a good sign. You could even use in combination with our products. But I think the beauty of how our products works that it goes like one step like further. That's not only activating collagen, it's really combating what's also causing collagen degradation and allowing your own skin cells to produce the collagen that they already do in a normal state.
When you talk about going through the epidermal layer to the dermal layer, a lot of talk around that has to do with making sure that you're exfoliating, that you're using an acid, that you're stripping away dead skin cells to make sure that your products get down to that level. Is your research under the assumption that there is not an exfoliation acid or physical happening for the skin? And have you tested with or without? Are you pro or anti that?
Yeah.
Need to do that to have your peptides hit my dermal layer? That's actually the question I'm asking.
We have a cleanser that we developed that has like some mild exfoliants as ingredients in that cleanser. And it really helps. Like, obviously, you needed to have a clean skin that without the makeup, impurities, pollution, to allow the peptide to penetrate better. So in our tests with our cleanser, we can see that we can more than double the amount of peptide penetration when you clean your skin with our cleanser. It doesn't mean that other products other cleansers would not work. We didn't test other cleansers. I would say that a mild exfoliation is good, is important. And even if you want to do a little bit of a deeper one, as long as you are not irritating too much, you're not causing too much inflammation of your skin, I think it's fine. Obviously, if you overdo it, then it can become a problem. So, for example, one of the products that we actually tested in the lab that worked well was like glycolic acid, and it's a good exfoliant, right? So, I think some options are more natural and don't cause like too much harm, and they can still do this exfoliation. Others are a little bit more harsh, and then obviously, the stronger versions of retinoic acids are more harsh. Some people would like still want to do that. Other people prefer like the more mild way. That's what I usually do. But yeah, I think in the end it's really respecting your skin. Like if your skin is irritated, it's too inflamed, it's sending you a message, and we needed to listen, and we needed to find like that balance.
100%. And when it comes to your peptide, I'm curious because I'm using kind of everything, your face, your eye, and your body lotion, which those would be the ones that would contain that peptide. Is it all the same peptide in different concentrations, or is it like how do the products vary for specific body type parts?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we usually try to understand the need of the skin type to dose the right concentration. So, for example, for the body, because our body is less exposed to damage, we have a lower concentration of the peptide. But the body is super, it's a very interesting product because we really designed it to also combat like senescent cells uh, throughout our body, because it's not our face that's aging, right? It's our whole body. And one of the very interesting findings that we discovered with our research is that because our skin is our largest organ and it's accumulating damage in senescent cells and they secrete inflammation, when we get older, the inflammation that's coming from our skin can actually elevate our systemic levels of inflammation because we are basically covering your whole body. So one of the studies that we did that was very, very interesting is to evaluate if a topical treatment of your skin can actually lower your systemic levels of inflammation. So we did this with participants that were over like 60 years old, and we collected blood and they used the product for 3 months, and then we assessed the inflammation in their blood again after 3 months, and we could see a decrease in very important cytokines related to inflammation, which was really, really interesting because it's the first time that we are actually connecting our skin with our overall health. And I think a lot of people don't pay attention on that. And obviously the product still helps like strengthening your skin, so it will make your skin like firmer, will prevent or reduce crepiness. And even for people that already have like very fragile skin, the skin tends to tear really easily, the product has an immense impact in kind of improving the quality of your skin for those people. And we love to see that we are delivering such an important value to our customers. So that's on the body, which I think is a very new approach. And I recommend that people start taking care of their body earlier than later, because a lot of times only when we're ready, like see the crepiness or the dark spots that we want to treat. And even for people that are too much in the sun, as you love doing it, I think it's a great way to, uh, combat like sunburn or prevent and really soothe your skin after like a good day in the sun. So that's one that's working super well. And the other one that we found really interesting as well is that on the opposite side, the skin around our eyes is 5 times thinner than the skin on our face. So it ages faster. So if you measure the biological age under or above your eyes, it's going to be 20 to 30 years older than just the skin around your temples. It's crazy, right? We know that because obviously we see the signs of aging around our eyes first, but it's really clear when you measure the skin biological age. And knowing that, we decided to create a formula that was the most powerful formula that we had to target the accelerated aging around our eyes. So the eye product, the eye cream, has a higher concentration of the peptide, and it has a lot of other actives that will help also with like puffiness, dark circles. And the clinical studies that we did with this eye product was the most impressive ones. We treated these participants for 12 weeks, and it seemed that they had done like an eye lifting surgery after the study. We could clearly see the eyelid that was drooping, really lifting in a very, impressive way. So this is the most powerful formula that we have so far. And again, it's really beautiful to see the correlation when you really design a formula to a skin type, and knowing its, conditions, and then seeing the results in humans when we do clinical studies, which are done by third parties, not run, inside of OneSkin. It's a great validation of, the efficacy of the products.
It's so exciting. I would say I'm used to like the previous peptide that I would use from Kate Somerville way back in the day when I was 25 years old. So like 15 years ago now. It was very thick. Like I said, it was like for an older woman, but I just like really was drawn to it. So I actually find myself like using the face, using the eye, and I'm not really good at a pea-sized amount. So when I have a little bit extra, I like will just put it everywhere because I like the thickness of it. And especially like you're saying with using that lotion on your body, like I'm in the sun a lot. I'm up in the mountains a lot. I have like, it's like cold, dry air or like
Yeah.
moist, hot sun, so I'm kind of back and forth, and I give my skin a beating. And I've noticed just a massive improvement in the hydration of my skin, the plumpness of my skin, the lightening of dark spots on my face. It's been awesome. And I didn't actually think I needed the body. I was like, oh no, I've got
Yeah.
lotion from Thrive Market. And I like notice a difference. Like I'll pull jeans off at the end of the day, and instead of my skin feeling dry and crepey or, having the ability, if I were to scratch my legs, you'd probably see like lines. Like it was insane how hydrated I still was at the end of the day. Again, that's like why I was so excited to talk to you and get the science, first of all, sent to me via email. I appreciate that. But then also like to dive into just the nitty gritty with you here today, because I think that it's pretty powerful. I'm a person who doesn't really believe the claims of skincare companies, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm like, okay, your internal scientists are showing this, and now it's on your marketing material at the CVS or at whatever, at your regular type of store. But it's to notice such a strong difference in my skin has been really powerful. So it's exciting. So speaking of which, what is exciting for you guys, and what are you envisioning for the future? Obviously, you kind of alluded to like being able to help senescent cells all over the body, and that your body care has the ability to lower cytokines in blood after a few months of treatment. So what's the future? How are you going to use your PhD in stem cell biology and tissue engineering to help us all in the future outside of us?
No, I think one of the things that we are very excited at OneSkin is that the science continues to evolve, so we will continue to evolve. So we have a team of scientists that go every day in the lab and work on the new formulations, or really improving, like, okay, now we have this peptide, but in 2 years, like we can improve like the efficacy of our products, either combining your peptide with the other molecules, or finding new peptides. Another thing that we are really interested, so we are continue to work on like really evolving the science in order to first develop new products that will target other areas of aging. We cannot share yet, but there's something exciting coming up soon. uh, but also continue to evolve the efficacy of our products in a way that we don't want to ever be stagnated. We want to continue to really harness all the advances that we see in the field of longevity and bring this to our customers, and really be the most effective product to target skin aging. Another thing that we are really excited that we just started working is to develop some tool or system that our customer can measure their skin health at home. Because I think it's for us, like we can see all this difference and we can quantify, but the customer is still not, they don't have the same ability, right? So we would love to empower them to track like their skin health at home. So we are working on a system that will track this over time. It's probably going to take a little bit, but that's an area that we're very excited because being a longevity company and being a little bit of a biohacker, you want to know if the interventions that you are making, if they're working, right? You want to measure, you want to be able to quantify. So for us, it makes sense that our customers, our community can also quantify or see if they are how they are progressing their skin health at home, and yeah, so we can continue to empower them to uh, reach that best state that they can.
Oh, 100%. People are not going to stay consistent with something if they can't track
Yeah, yeah,
improvement. Like everything we track and measure is that, I mean, that's the stuff we're most motivated to change and improve and invest in, you name it. Yeah. And I would say for me, noticing just in the mirror such a substantial and significant change um, has been enough for me. But I could see like I'm using your product for a few years and
yeah,
then I get to this place where I'm like, all right, we need to like save for college tuitions and like where am I cutting? And I'm like, maybe it's this. I don't know if it's working anymore. Like everyone's had that
yeah,
reached that point with so many things, whether it's like the way you're eating, you're working out, like how you're supporting your mental health or your growth as a entrepreneur, whatever it is, you invest where you see change. And so that's
yeah.
really cool.
And I think in the end, like one of the main our main purpose at OneSkin is to be able to simplify your skincare routine, right? I know that some people can get so overwhelmed, like there are so many options, and some people have like a 10-step skincare routine. First, like who has time for that?
Not
A mom
me.
of three kids. And second, is it really necessary that you use so many products? So for us is really trying to nail down like what are the key essential products that you need. And obviously for those that who like to layer more products, they can do this, but for those that want to simplify, let's just have like one for the body. You have a face wash, you have a moisturizer and a night cream, sunscreen, done. Like easy, 5 minutes. And then if you do the important things right, you don't need to even spend a lot of money in other things, right? So you can, save a little bit on Botox or save on whatever you want to do, because your skin will be in that healthy state that will be, functioning well for longer. So in the end, it could be a good way to be more smart with your investment, how you invest. Since I needed to, to put something on my skin, let's, choose what I can get the most for my bucket.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the minimalistic approach. It's something that again can be sustainable and you can be consistent with in the long term because it's not going like, oh, I got to go in the bathroom and do my 10-step routine
Yeah.
after a long day with 3 kids and your job and everything to then say, okay, like I can wash my face and put some lotion on. It's no big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and even a lot of people, they've been like testing so many products, and then it's so hard for them to track like is it really good or bad, or like to check all the ingredients, are all these ingredients good. So a lot of times I just think that the industry is really pushing to something that it's overwhelming, and in the end it's not what is the best for our skin. I think we needed to really try to reduce the amount of things that we think that we need, right? So to achieve that healthy and glowy skin. But
It's interesting because that's exactly what happened. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, you should check out OneSkin. My wife is using it. You should try it. They'll send you some." And you guys sent me some lotion, and it's like the idea of trying new things. I was like, "Yep, no thanks."
I
It like
know.
sat in the box for a couple of weeks, and then I was like, thankfully your team was tapping on my door a little bit more, and they were like, "No, no, no, really, like here's the science. Check it out." And that was enough of a motivator for me to be like, okay, I'll give it a go. But it only worked because it's such a minimal routine. And then immediately, like I would say, like after like a couple weeks, I was like, whoa, what is this? Tell me more. Um,
Yeah.
so I appreciate your time because I know you're busy creating so many awesome products and you have a big full-time job. But I like to know the science behind what I'm using, especially if I'm making the investment and I think it's so awesome that you have the studies to support it and that you're willing to share that information and that you have a bigger goal, which is to target these zombie cells and senescent cells, these bad apples that are kind of like ruining the bunch.
Yeah.
Because at my rate, I'm probably getting more and more by the day. But now, thanks to you, we're pulling them out one by one.
Yeah, that's what we are here for. And yeah, and we love. I really appreciate the opportunity of sharing your science, because I think the lay person, or like that, has no idea what it's behind, or the day to day. And we love sharing, everything that we do. We are so passionate about it. And even I invite people to subscribe to our newsletter, because we share a little bit of the science, the data, the new products that we are developing with our community, so they can see on a daily basis, what we are doing, what's going on, and make questions. And if we don't have the answer, we'll do the experiment and we'll bring back the data. So yeah, that's what we are all about, and really learning how we can, get better and really serve our community better with this new science, and obviously the products that we develop.
Well, thank you for all of your due diligence, Carolina. It's been awesome to have you on the show to share OneSkin. Where sign up for your newsletter, but where can people follow along with you and the brand to learn more? And then I am going to work with you guys to get. I think we were going to put some links in. I don't know if we decided if I could get an affiliate code or something, but we're gonna make sure that everybody has access to this stuff as well.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely get you an affiliate code, and for your community that's super aligned with what we are doing. So first, thank you for being this, source of amazing information and content. It's definitely the type of partner that we love. People can follow us on social media. So we are on Instagram at oneskin.co, and our website also oneskin.co, and sign up for our newsletter. And yeah, that's where we'll be finding more, like where the magic happens. We'll be sharing more on that there.
Well, before we close it out completely, where did OneSkin come from? Why did you name it OneSkin?
Yeah, so we were discussing about, our skin and being our largest organ, and also this idea of like we are one. So, doesn't matter your skin color. We are all like, part of the same one, I would say, universe. And so one skin came basically to unify we all together, and also your skin as like that important organ, that's so important for our health. So we should take care of our one skin.
Yes, we should. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your time and all of your research points and data. It makes a big difference. And I'm so excited to support you guys in what you're doing and get this information out there because it's made a big difference in my skin. And I'd like to really fight aging, not only through diet and lifestyle interventions, but to have something that I know targets without the toxicity is so important to me because, yeah, I don't want to have to do all that other stuff later. Like,
Yeah.
I give me the eye cream eye lift. I don't want to
Yeah.
go under the knife.
Much,
So,
much better than I agree than a surgery. Yeah, and that's what we are all about. And I think all of you, what you said, like diet, exercise, sleep is also a part of it. So our products and our routine is should be one step of your longevity routine, right? Like take care of your skin as you take care of your internal organs. So that's what is our message is about. Yeah.
well said. Well said. Well, thank you so much for being here. I will link to everything in the show notes. I really appreciate your time, and I'm so glad that you kept knocking on my door.
Yeah. Thank you for opening the door for us, and
Yeah.
I'll
All
see you
right.
next time. Okay,
Thanks,
thank you,
Carolina.
Patty.
Bye.